एकम् अक्षरं हृदि निरन्तरं भासते स्वयं लिख्यते कथम् हृदयकुहर मध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् यहमहमिति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वता मज्जता पवनचलनरोधा आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम्। देहं मृण्मयवत् जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तथ भावशुद्धिसमये शुद्धात्मसद्भावतः कोऽहं भावयुतः कुतो वदधिया दृष्टात्मनिष्टात्मना सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचलशिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं। सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचलशिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं। Namo Ramana. In this, the Thursday Satsang from Ramana Maharshi Center for Learning, we have been referring to the work Guruvachaka Kovai by Muruganar Swamigal, and we'll continue to do so. We'll be selecting 2 verses to be read. Each verse reading will be followed by a short meditation on its meaning, and that shall be followed by a 10-minute practice session of self-inquiry. After these 2 segments of verse reading, meditation on meaning, and the practice of self-inquiry are completed, there will be summing up remarks by Sri Venkatesh Deshpande ji. Today, there will be verbal offering of the Sri Ramanastotram by Vaibhav ji and Prarthana ma, and the puja team is under flu, So we'll be offering self-inquiry at that time, all of us joining Vaibhavji and Prarthana. We begin this evening's satsang by taking the first verse selected for us, verse number 659. The verse 659 we find in the segment Meditation on the Truth, which is the second segment of the book. The first segment being Investigation into Truth. Meditation on the Truth is the second segment. And the Anubhava, the experience of the truth, is the last segment. Verse 659 we find under the sub-segment Form. Uruvam, form, Rupa. 659. Those people who lack consciousness of pure being. Those people who lack consciousness of pure being, the natural light I am, and who consequently come through ignorance under the spell of karma and suffer, will have their delusion ended and reach the self, the supreme reality, through meditation on a divine form that is dear to them. Muruganar Swamigal has given a comment. Muruganar Swamigal says, those who do not know the natural method of remaining still, contemplating reality by self-abidance, and who suffer by coming under the spell of ignorance, will get rid of their ignorance by meditation on a form of the divine, the artificial method, and get back to Atma Swarupa, the ultimate reality. There is a note from Sri Ramana Paravidyopanishad, a Sanskrit commentary by Sri Lakshman Sharma on Ulladu Narpadu. There is a note taken from that work. If a man adores God, who is nameless and formless, through names and in a form, he will be liberated from the bondage due to names and forms. Such is the teaching of Sri Ramana. The man who meditates with devotion on God with a form, being endowed with the divine temperament, will attain the same state of deliverance which one attains meditating on him as formless. So we go back to the verse. Those people who lack consciousness of pure being, the natural light I am, and who consequently come through ignorance under the spell of karma and suffer, will have their delusion ended and reach the self, the supreme reality, through meditation on a divine form that is dear to them. Now this verse is a meditation on the practice of meditation itself, the practice of dhyana. In the work Spiritual Instructions, the question answer form of prose, the discussions with Swami Natanananda that Bhagavan has, in that Bhagavan says that dhyana too can bring one to the self, to enlightenment, to the self. And he differentiates dhyana from the meditation on the name or form from the other sadhanas and says, In the sadhana of meditation, one is very close to the source of the mind, and in fact can see the variations in the mind even as it begins. Just like our breath has inward and outward movement, just like every muscle in the body has a natural movement, the mind at its source also has an inward outward palpitation, which can be directly felt by the meditator, who through meditation has made his mind sukshma. And with that sukshma arivu, the sukshma consciousness, one is able to feel the very source of the mind, and then the self reveals itself to this indirect sadhana also. So, to those who cannot directly hold the I am with who am I, and because of that ignorance, they are suffering from karma. Karma is nothing but getting caught in the valuations of the different names and forms and saying this is better, that is more, this is less beautiful, that is more beautiful, this shade is fine, that shade is totally off. All these come as karma, where one differentiates between one form and the other. And when to alleviate that sorrow that karma brings, when one resorts to the meditation of one form, as Bhagavan says in Upadesha Saram, Ashtamurti Brit Deva Pujanam, that all the forms that you see are only the form of the deity you want to see. So when you see that one deity, all the forms that you differentiate are all contained in that one form. We have seen the incident that Bhagavan brought about in our Atmavicharam sessions. I have shared with that a year or two ago with the Thursday Satsang, that this lady, about 70 years old or a bit more, she was residing somewhere near the Sanjay Nagar center. In fact, she had come for a few days, holidays, to her son's place. But she was a meditator on the Ramanama, and she wanted to know from her son, is there any meditation center nearby where she could go and participate in a meditation session. And her son had known about our sessions and brought her here. And she came for a few sessions, the Friday Atmavicharam sessions. She was quiet throughout. And after about 4 or 5 weeks, she stopped after the end of the session also and waited. And when the moment was all right for a discussion, she asked, see, I have been practicing the meditation on Rama all these years. In fact, my meditation has been blessed to such an extent that now I don't need to meditate. I don't need to put in the effort. The Ramanama is going on automatically. So that is the stage in which I came to your Who Am I sessions, and I could practice the Atma Vichara also, that is holding the light of I am, also most of the time. But sometime I would get a doubt whether I am living my Rama, whether I am living the dhyana, the meditation on the one form I am totally devoted to. Then the response to her that seemed appropriate at that time was that, you see, when someone is allowed to reach that point where the mantra, or the Rupa of the deity or the Nama of the deity is going on effortlessly, then that is called ajapa, or that is called the state where the doership of the devotee is completely absorbed. Such a devotee is able to take, having absorbed all the universes in that one form, whatever happens to them, whatever they do, both of these are without any sort of doership. Once the japa which permeates everything is going on by itself, then everything is going on by itself. The doership is gone. Therefore, you are surrounded by Rama. Rama is everywhere. Therefore, who could have brought you to who am I? If Rama alone is there surrounding you, then who could have brought you to who am I? Only Rama, seeing the moment appropriate, has brought you to the knowledge of the self. That the dhyana is now maturing into Atma Jnana. You are being brought by Rama to have a vision of his true self. It is only Rama who has brought you into self-enquiry, because for you there is no one else. He is the only doer. Who can bring you? The only real doer can bring you. Everybody else is merely a puppet of Rama, isn't it? Therefore, it is Rama who has brought you to self-enquiry. And however, if you still have doubt, always slip into the dhyana. When you are ready, you will be able to stabilize in self-knowledge. That dhyana, meditation on the form itself, has brought you to the meditation or absorption into the formless self. So what Bhagavan teaches here and in the spiritual instructions was given a practical laboratory demonstration to us in the form of that lady who had matured in her dhyana of the worship with form, where the form itself had occupied the whole of the universes. She was not interested in any other object, and that nama was going on automatically. So she had lost her doership. Now from loss of doership, which is said to be mukti in Dvitiya, in Dvaita Marga, she had to come to the Atma Jnana, where everything is this Purana, everything is Mauna. There is no doing, doer, this doer is different, this is the real doer, this is the false doer. All those things are gone in Atma Jnana. So from the freedom of being the non-doer and realizing that there is only one real doer, the Rama, she was now being brought by that same power to Atma Jnana, to the realization of the self, where this division of meditator, meditation and the meditated object is all absorbed into the one self. This is how Bhagavan says that in Krama Mukti, in the practice of meditation, which is obviously Krama Mukti, because there is time brought in, there is space brought in between the meditator and the meditated, whereas in Atma Vichara, both time and space have no role to play, because both are eliminated in self-attention. Whereas in the meditation marga, in the Krama Mukti, the deity itself brings the practitioner to Atma Jnana and will surely do as the tapas becomes ready, the tapas becomes mature, the tapasvi is now made to realize the self, is now made to realize the Atman. That is the journey Bhagavan describes in this verse, that even by meditation on Bhagavan's form, one will have support in the journey to Atma Vicharam, Atma Jnanam, is what Bhagavan says. So let us gather our tapasvic strength and directly do that which meditation will bring us to, that is holding of the I am. When a thought arises, does it arise without the I am? No. So instead of the I am pursuing the thought, one should inquire, for whom is this thought? the answer will come, it is for me, then that attention which was fragmenting and was ready to run after a thought is brought back and fixed in the ever-present self-luminous I am. For 10 minutes, let us sit in Atma Vicharam. Revatima, you can help us with the time. Namo. Namo Ramana. We continue the satsang by taking the second verse number 885. We find 885 in the experience of the truth segment. That is the last segment. The subsegment is the self is eternally realized. The self is eternally realized. Verse number 885. Only the path of inquiring into the mysterious clue, the I thought, can enable you to attain and enjoy the self, the treasure shining in the heart, irrespective of how much effort you put into practicing all the other paths such as karma, bhakti, yoga, and jnana. Only the path of inquiry into the mysterious clue, the I thought, can enable you to attain and enjoy the self, the treasure shining in the heart, irrespective of how much effort you put into practicing all the other paths such as karma, bhakti, yoga, and jnana. There is no contradiction with the earlier verse we have seen. The earlier verse said that the dhyana, the bhakti, which culminates in meditation on the Ishta, that will bring you to self-inquiry, that will bring you to the Atma Jnana, and one has to finally pass through this toll gate. Everyone has to pass through this toll gate, says Bhagavan, that all the other sadhanas are done with the ego. All the other sadhanas are done with the ego and are purificatory practices. It purifies the I. But finally, the attention has to fall on who I am, and that I thought has to vanish. The I thought has to vanish before the self is realized. That is why here the verse says, how much ever effort you might have put in other paths, they might purify the I, but finally the attention has to fall on the I thought, and the I thought has to be eliminated so that the self, the treasure shining in the heart, is realized. Now, what is this I thought? The I thought, we begin by saying, it is the ability to aggregate certain objects of like as I, and the ability to drop certain objects of dislike as not I. Somehow, this consciousness, the jiva, has been bestowed with this ability to aggregate certain things, certain bodily parts, certain thoughts, certain knowledge of the world, certain identities, certain hats that we wear. All that is aggregated. But it is not that all of them are always identified with, because the way the I operates is by identity. Identity is The I becomes identical with its contents. It is one with its contents. It calls its contents as I. It aggregates and calls its contents as I, and also keeps away from the other things which it says is not I. Now, this ability, once we inquire into who am I, we remove the contents, we are able to remove the contents, then we are able to come to this point, oh, actually I am not those contents, but I am the ability to aggregate and to let go. Now, to deliver this reading and the sharing, there is this ability to aggregate, but there is also the ability to let go, to disaggregate and leave. Now, once you understand that this is the I, then as Bhagavan says in Ramana Sadguru, Pindam meviya nadane, Brahmandam meviya nadanai. That this ability to aggregate and disaggregate is the very thing that makes the universe. The whole universe is held or dropped only by this ability of attachment and, let us say for the moment, detachment for the sake of understanding. But are we really this ability to attach and detach? Because the ability to attach and detach is as much ajnana as the contents that it attaches to or detaches from, says Bhagavan in Ulladu Narpadu. It is traditionally understood that the contents of the consciousness are all inert, are the ajnana. But Bhagavan goes one step further and says that the ability to know and aggregate those objects as objective knowledge and say this is I, that is also ajnana. And when we are inquiring and drop that need, that vasana to blindly aggregate and to blindly be averse to certain things, then the consciousness comes to the truth, the treasure in the heart. The treasure in the heart is arrived at only when this jiva bhava, that I exist only by holding on to these things. I exist only when I am free of these things. That bhava, that jiva bhava, the I, has to be extinguished. Until it is extinguished, the treasure of the self, that is the treasure in the heart, that is shining self-luminously, will not reveal itself. Because one wrongly or ignorantly identifies with what one clutches or identifies by separating from certain things which we are averse to. By being averse to those things, we get our identity. By aversion, by attaching to some contents, we get identity by attachment. Both these are ignorance. Consciousness does not need another for its existence. I am that I am. The consciousness is self-luminous and it is the self in the heart, but that can be reached only when the ego stops its mamakara game, its sadhana with the mamakara and all other paths where rules are given to purify the consciousness. All the other paths, how much ever we may put as effort, they get fulfillment, they get fruition only when they bring one to the attention on the I, where the I is dismantled and one realizes that one's true nature is neither grasping nor being averse to. Both grasping and aversion are ignorance, and one is detached from both the activities. And there is this knowledge, as Bhagavan says in Who Am I, that very detachment from ignorance and the jnana of no ignorance appearing are one and the same. To the question, what is Vairagya and what is Jnana? Bhagavan says, Vairagya is to keep away from the objects, and Jnana is the non appearance of the objects. And in sadhana, one realizes that the keeping away from ignorance, of grasping and letting go, the detachment from that itself is the non appearance of contents and grasping and aversion. That itself is jnana. Detachment itself is jnana. That is the shining treasure in the heart called the self, says Bhagavan. Therefore, all other sadhanas, all other efforts, they gain fruition only when we pay the final toll. This toll gate is crossed by dismantling the I, so that the ever present self reveals itself. With Bhagavan's immense grace, let us sit in practice of Atma Vicharam to directly dismantle this I and realize I am that I am. With Bhagavan's grace, let us sit in practice for 10 minutes. Revatima, you can set the time for us. Namo. Namo Ramana. I request Venkatesh ji to give us the summing up remark. Namo Ramana, sir.
Namo Ramana. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jnanamulam Gurur Murti, Pujamulam Gurur Padam, Mantramulam Gurur Vakyam, Mokshamulam Gurur Kripa. Namo Ramana. The beautiful verse, 659. Now, when we look back at our journey in our spiritual journey, we understand that we always started this way. We always started with looking at a form and looking at great ones. Like if I go back in time, say 40 years back, I used to pray to Satya Sai Baba, and I used to like going for his darshan, going and seeing him, and I used to feel nice. I used to feel peaceful within. And I used to go to Tirupati and give my hair, do mundan of my hair. There also I used to see Venkateshwara, go to Shirdi, go here, go there. So there was a process. There was a process of going here, going there, and that was very beautiful in its own way. But then what happens as you go through this journey? Obviously, as they always say, you finally get a guru. So if you must have enough of mumukshu, you must have enough of longing for God. When you have enough of longing for God, then you land up with a guru who comes there automatically in your life and says, hey, you have been doing whatever you have been doing, but now these are the few additional things that I will teach you. And you'll say, Chitta Vritti Nirodha, avoid thoughts coming into your mind. So you start there, oh, what is this? I've been always thinking of God and thinking that I must go to Tirupati or give my hair and all. Then he says you have to avoid thoughts coming to your mind. Oh, that's a new dimension which I've never thought about. And then you start doing, you read the Gita and go here and there and do Nishkama Karma. And then somebody comes and says that you have to watch your breath and start going inwards. Oh, there's that we need to do. Then you start attending kirtanas and bhajans, and suddenly that God which is outside suddenly says, oh, your God is no more outside, close your eyes, and the form of the God goes inside. And then that form of the God, which is so big, very difficult to contemplate, becomes the feet of the Lord. And then the feet of the Lord also, again, so sometimes you remember the feet of the Lord, sometimes you remember one feet, sometimes you remember somebody else's feet. So then you get confused, and then comes along Bhagwan in our lives and he says, Hridaya Kohara Madhe Kevalam Brahma Matram, God is within you. Oh, there's God is within me. Then what is this? I've been trying to going out in this Nama and Rupa and going here, there, everywhere. Then what is this? What is actually the reality of this God that I've been thinking? I've been going to Tirupati, Shirdi, going to Satya Sai Baba, giving my hair out, and I've been thinking, oh, these are all important things in my life, and this will take me to God. But they brought me to wherever I brought, but Bhagwan is saying, go inside. So the journey of all this is also very beautiful, as much as the destination. So then he says, then finally he says, Bhagwan says, he's sitting in Mauna and he's Dakshinamurti. And Jesus is also saying, be still and know that I am God. Oh my God. So all these things that have been happening in my life, last 40 and odd years, I've been doing puja, doing this, that, everything. Does it make sense? Oh, and these karma, bhakti, Raj Yoga, all these things that I've been doing, does it make sense? It all makes sense, but finally what's important, what Bhagwan is trying to tell us is that the real treasure is within. Why the real treasure is within? If you look at Bhagwan's birth, what happened? The midwife, what did she say? oh, Amma, I see a huge bright light in the child you have given birth to. That child is light. So then, mother also realizes that she's given birth to a bright light in that form of the body, and then obviously later on the whole thing unfolds where Bhagwan becomes Ganapati Muni says he is Bhagwan Sri Ramana Maharshi. But the point really is, everybody was, if you look at, everybody was holding the form of Ramana. And Ramana, everybody was following Ramana wherever he was going. Whether he was going up the hill, going around for Girivalam, everybody was holding the form. Everybody knew. Bhagavan said, Hridaya Kohara Madhya Kevalam Brahma Matram. But nobody was holding their own self. They were all running behind Bhagavan and saying, oh, but here is Bhagavan in the physical form. And then what happened? Then Bhagavan decided one day that he is going to leave the body. Then what happened to that light? Nobody had seen that light. You see, we were talking about the treasure which is within us. In the next verse, they're talking about the treasure which is within us. The midwife had seen the treasure, and when the birth of Ramana had seen the treasure, nobody else had seen the treasure. So what happened when he left the body? That bright light moved towards Arunachala and merged into Arunachala. So that's when everybody saw that beautiful light going and merging into Arunachala. And everybody said, oh, that is the reality of Ramana, that bright light which nobody had seen. That light is actually within each one of us. So that's what Bhagavan is. The drama is being played out, that the light went. Now if somebody relates Bhagavan to the light, then the light has already gone and merged into Arunachala. If you think Bhagavan was the body, the body is no more there. It's in the Samadhi form. So where is Bhagavan? Bhagavan is the formless. He is the bodiless. He is formless. So that is the process that each one of us goes through. If you contemplate, do manana on this, you realize that God has been in different ways in our lives, in the spiritual journey, but finally Bhagavan says, I am the light within. So like the light which went and merged into Arunachala, I am that light within. Go within. Now the process of karma bhakti, you cannot poo-poo it. It was necessary at that point as part of this drama. It was necessary. So you went through, each one of us is going through our own processes to be able to come to that self. So it's a beautiful journey. So all of us must be, we are extremely blessed to be a part of this whole journey. And from my perspective, the process is as important as the destination. So the destination is the self, which is the only reality. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana, sir. May I request Vaibhavji and Pratnama to offer the chanting, and we can sit in Atma Ucharan.
नमो रमणा
नमो रमणा
भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितं श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तर शतनामावलिः अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशे यस्योर्मि मात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि ॐ महासेन महंसेन जाताय नमः ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः ॐ गुरवे नमः ॐ अखण्डसंविदाकाराय नमः ॐ महौजसे नमः ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः ॐ जगद्धितावताराय नमः ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोस्थिताय नमः ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः। ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः। ॐ श्रीमद्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः। ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः। ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः। ॐ तीव्राय नमः। ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः। ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमते नमः। ॐ पितुरादेशतः शोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः। ॐ तपोमयाय नमः। ॐ उदासीनाय नमः। ॐ महायोगिने नमः। ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः। ॐ कुशाग्रधिये नमः। ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः। ॐ सुसन्दृशे नमः। ॐ सवित्रे नमः। ॐ स्थिराय नमः। ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः। ॐ फुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः। ॐ चन्द्रिकासितः श्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः। ॐ चूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः। ॐ चूर्णिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः। ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः। ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः। ॐ त्रिगुणातिगाय नमः। ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः। ॐ विराजदशलाकृतये नमः। ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः। ॐ पूर्णाय नमः। ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः। ॐ गम्भीराय नमः। ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः। ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः। ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणास्य निभाय नमः। ॐ धीराय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः। ॐ स्वराजे नमः। ॐ महर्षये नमः। ॐ भगवते नमः। ॐ ईद्याय नमः। ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः। ॐ विमलाय नमः। ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः। ॐ आप्ताय नमः। ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः। ॐ समदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्याय नमः। ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः। ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः। ॐ श्रीशोणाचलहृद्बोधस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेश्यै नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्चिन्नसंशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविधायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादगसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ ऋक्षान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणाद्बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ शोणादृशस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युत निज प्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिक महातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शुभ्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगविषद्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमण भगवते नमः। श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनाम पूजां समर्पयामि। यस्थानुरुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्याजनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रह सुप्रवाह विवशा तारात्म्यभावं गतः विनिष्टस्वगभीर नित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनासेकरात् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नमः इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
Namo Ramana. Thank you, Vaibhavji. Thank you, Pratnama. Thank you, Venkatesh ji.
नमो रमणाय।
Thank you.